In the 26th century before Christ, a city existed in the valley of the Indus River with a population of 50,000 people. Every house in that city had running water. Every street drained into a covered sewage system. Every building was constructed from standardized bricks, sized to a ratio so precise it has never needed to be improved. The Romans would not achieve this standard of urban infrastructure for another 2,000 years. The Indus River rises in the Tibetan Plateau, descends through the Himalayas, and crosses what is now Pakistan before emptying into the Arabian Sea. Along its floodplain, and along a second river system to the east, the Ghaggar Hakra, which once ran through what is now the desert of northwestern India, agriculture had been practiced since at least 6,500 before Christ. Settled communities formed at Mehrgarj in the hills of Balochistan nearly 8,000 years ago. By the 4th millennium, those communities had moved into the Sikjektvab, drawn by the same force that built Mesopotamia and Egypt, fertile, annually renewed floodplain soil. But the civilization that emerged from the Indus Valley was unlike anything else in the ancient world, not because of its monuments, not because of its armies, not because of its art, because it appears to have had none of those things. When British archaeologist R.D. Banerjee arrived at the mound of Mohenjo-Daro in 1919, he expected to find what archaeologists always find beneath them Bone-to-Hektavar: temples, palaces, royal tombs, weapons of war, the residue of concentrated power. He found something far stranger: a grid. Mohenjo-Daro was not built by accident or by slow accretion. It was planned. The streets ran in precise cardinal directions, north to south, east to west. The main boulevards were 10 meters wide. Secondary lanes branched at right angles. The entire layout was oriented to the prevailing winds so that air would circulate through the city and the streets would ventilate themselves. The houses were built from kiln-fired mud brick, not sun-dried, which crumbles, fired, which resists water and time, and the bricks conformed to a single ratio, 1 to 2 to 4, a proportion that maximizes structural stability, the same ratio that brick manufacturers still use today. This was not a city that grew organically around a river crossing or a temple complex. It was conceived as a system, designed in advance and built to a standard, enforced across the entire settlement. At its peak, around 2500 before Christ, Mohenjo-Daro covered 250 acres. Its population stood between 30,000 and 60,000 people. Harappa, the second great city of the Indus civilization, was comparable in size. Beyond these two centers lay more than 1,000 other Harappan settlements, scattered across a territory larger than ancient Egypt and Mesopotamia combined, from the foothills of Afghanistan in the north to the coast of Gujarat in the south. At the height of its power, the civilization may have held between 1 and 5 million people. It was the most geographically extensive civilization in the Bronze Age world. And it has left behind no record of a single king, no royal tomb, no palace compound, no inscription naming a ruler, no monument erected to a dynasty's sector glory. The closest object archaeologists have to a figure of authority is a carved stone sculpture, 12 centimeters tall, found broken in the ruins of Mohenjo-Daro in Maficha-Herche in the 1920s. Scholars named it the Priest King, not because any evidence suggested it depicted a priest or a king, but because they could not conceive of a great civilization existing without one. The second artifact recovered from the same site is a bronze figurine of a young woman, posed with one hand on her hip, her wrist stacked with bangles. She's been named the Dancing Girl. She is the face of the Indus Valley civilization, because in the absence of any record of who ruled it, she is one of the few individuals it ever showed the world. The city that no single ruler claimed was the most technically sophisticated urban environment in the ancient world. Beneath the streets of Mohenjo-Daro ran a drainage network of a complexity that would not be matched until the 19th century after Christ. Each house had its own bathroom. Wastewater flowed through clay pipes in the walls into covered brick drains beneath the street, which carried it beyond the city to collection pits outside the walls. The drains were large enough to walk through. They were built with access panels for regular maintenance. A civilization that planned for who would clean its sewers 2,000 years before Rome had running water. And this precision extended to everything the Harappan people built or traded. They used a system of standardized weights based on two interlocking scales, a binary sequence of 1, 2, 4, 8, 16, 32, 64, and a decimal sequence of 10, 20, 40, 100, 200, 400, 800. These weights have been found at Harappan sites across the full territorial extent of the civilization, from the coast of Pakistan to the plains of Haryana, all conforming to the same standard, not approximately the same. A merchant in coastal Gujarat and a trader in the Punjab highlands were working with the identical unit of measurement. The implication is a degree of administrative coordination across a territory the size of Western Europe, sustained without any evidence of a central army, a royal court, or a coercive liege, a state apparatus. They also traded far beyond their borders. Harappan stone seals have been found in the ruins of Mesopotamian cities. Lapis lazuli from Afghanistan moved through Indus ports. Cotton, produced in the Indus Valley, reached Mesopotamian markets as early as 2300 before Christ. At the coastal site of Lothal in Gujarat, the Harappans constructed a tidal dockyard, the oldest known in the world, capable of accommodating ocean-going vessels timed to the rise and fall of the Arabian Sea. They were not isolated. They were connected to Mesopotamia, to Central Asia, to the Persian Gulf, through a maritime trade network centuries older than anything Rome would build. And on every one of those seals, carved above the animal, in a row of small pictographic signs, is a script. More than 4,000 individual signs have been identified. Across thousands of artifacts, recovered from sites spanning the entire civilization, linguists, mathematicians, and cryptographers have been attempting to decipher the Indus script for over a century. No consensus has been reached. In February of 2025, the Indian government offered a prize of $1 million to any scholar who could crack it. The prize has not been claimed. The Indus script is the only major writing system of the ancient world that has never been deciphered. There is no Harappan Rosetta Stone, no bilingual inscription bridges the Indus signs to any known language. The civilization spoke. It wrote, it sealed its messages in stone, and we cannot hear a word of it. But one absence speaks more clearly than the script ever could. No swords, no spear points in quantity, no arrowheads stockpiled for military use, no fortification walls designed to repel an army, no art depicting warfare, no mass graves of soldiers. Across more than 1,000 excavated Harappan sites, archaeologists have found no evidence of the systematic militarism that characterized every other great civilization of the Bronze Age. Not the Akkadian Empire, not Egypt's New Kingdom, not the Assyrian war machine. The most geographically extensive civilization in the ancient world does not appear to have built itself on conquest. It was built on water management, trade, standardization, and civic order. And then, quietly, it ended. Around 1900 before Christ, the mature Harappan civilization began to contract. Not suddenly, not catastrophically. Over a period of perhaps 2 to 3 centuries, the great cities of the Indus Valley were gradually depopulated. Mohenjo-Daro shrank. Its drainage systems, once the pride of the ancient world, fell into disrepair. The standardized brick sizes that had unified construction across the civilization began to vary from site to site, a sign that the administrative system enforcing those standards was dissolving at the edges. By 1300 before Christ, the civilization that had stretched from Afghanistan to Gujarat was gone. The question of why has occupied archaeologists for a century. 3 theories have dominated the debate. The first theory, climate change. Geological and botanical evidence indicates that the monsoon system feeding the rivers of the northwestern subcontinent began to weaken around 2100 before Christ. Reduced rainfall meant reduced river flow. The alluvial plains that had sustained Harappan agriculture for 1,000 years began to dry. The second, river rerouting. The Ghaggar-Hakra, the eastern river system, along which a significant proportion of Harappan settlements were concentrated, appears to have shifted course or dried entirely during this period. Tectonic activity is believed to have redirected the rivers that fed it northward toward the Gangetic Plain. For a civilization whose entire urban infrastructure was built around the management of water, the drains, the wells, the docks, the irrigation systems. The death of a river was not an inconvenience. It was an existential threat, with no precedent and no solution. The third theory, for many decades the dominant one, was invasion.
Ready to unlock something amazing? You don't want to miss what's next. Every like, every comment, and especially every share helps us create more jaw-dropping content just for you. So hit that subscribe button right now to join our incredible community. Don't wait, dive in!
British archaeologist Mortimer Wheeler, excavating Mohenjo-Daro in the 1940s, found 44 skeletons lying in the streets of the city, some in positions suggesting sudden, violent death. He proposed that the Harappans had been massacred by Indo-Aryan peoples migrating south through the mountain passes of Central Asia. It was a narrative that fit the prejudices of its time, a superior people sweeping away a passive civilization, replacing it with the ancestor cultures of the modern subject continent. Subsequent analysis dismantled it entirely. The 44 skeletons span different time periods. They were not killed simultaneously. Most show no marks of violence. There is no evidence of burning, of organized destruction, of the kind of catastrophic signature that accompanies a military sack. The skeletons were people who died at different times, across different years, in a city that was no longer functioning well enough to ensure they received a proper burial. Not victims of a massacre, residents of a city in the long, slow process of being abandoned. This is where the Indus Valley defies the grammar of civilization. Every other great culture of the ancient world ended with an event that could be narrated. Egypt fell to Persia. Babylon fell to Cyrus. Nineveh was obliterated by a Babylonian Median coalition in a single campaign. Even Rome's fall, contested, drawn out, complex, can be traced through the movements of armies, the decisions of emperors, the weight of accumulated crises. The Indus Valley civilization did not end with a siege. It did not burn. No conqueror carved his name into its walls. No inscription records its final ruler. No. Lamentation text survives to mourn its passing in its own words. It dispersed as the western rivers dried and the monsoon weakened. The population migrated eastward toward the Gangetic Plain, where water still flowed, where agriculture was still possible. The cities did not empty in panic. They emptied over generations as the conditions that had made them possible slowly ceased to hold. The most advanced civilization in the Bronze Age world ended not with conquest, not with plague, not with catastrophe. It ended the way water ends, by finding somewhere else to go. And when it was gone completely. No successor culture preserved its memory. No ancient historian recorded its name. The Indus script, which might have told us what the Harappan people called themselves, what they believed, who governed them, what stories they told about their own origins, remains sealed in 4,000 signs that no one living has yet been able to read. Mohenjo-Daro means Mound of the Dead. It was named that by archaeologists who arrived in 1919 and could not determine who had built the city beneath their feet, or what its people had called it, or what language they had spoken. A civilization of 5 million people left behind its cities, its drains, its weights, its seals, and did not leave behind its name. In 1856, British engineers laying the Lahore-Multan railway line in what is now Pakistan needed ballast to place beneath the tracks. They found it in the earth beneath their feet. Millions of fired mud bricks scattered across the landscape. Ancient, they assumed, but useful. They dug them up and used them. They did not know the bricks were 4,000 years old. They did not know they were dismantling, one cartload at a time, the remains of the oldest urban civilization in South Asia. The bricks had been fired to a ratio of 1 to 2 to 4. They fit perfectly. The Indus Valley civilization built in silence. It administered without kings. It traded without conquest. It ended without war. It is the only major civilization in human history of which all these things are simultaneously true. Its script has not been read. Its name has not been recovered. The prize for deciphering it remains unclaimed. But its cities still stand in the soil of Pakistan and northwestern India. Its drainage channels still run beneath the streets of Mohenjo-Daro. Its standardized weights still sit in museum cases, every one of them conforming to the same ratio, from a site in Afghanistan to a dock on the coast of Gujarat. a precision imposed across 5 million people, across a territory the size of Western Europe, by no king whose name you know, on no authority that has yet been explained.
If you want to uncover more hidden stories, make sure to like the video, subscribe to the channel, and share it with your friends.